Yo, what's going on, everybody? How you doing?
What's up, guys?
What's up, Dane?
What's going on, guys?
Yo, everybody, welcome to the podcast, Investor Thrive Nation, Investor Thrive Studio. We're in here about to collab, make a good podcast. We got our good friend Dane. He's a local buyer, wholesaler, flipper. I mean, he does it all. He's got his own e-commerce business. He's the man. So we're going to talk to him today, kind of figure out how we can, learn from his experiences. And if you haven't checked out InvestorThrive.com, it's a company business dedicated to helping real estate professionals in their personal lives, thrive in their personal lives and in real estate. So check it out. Corey, you want to introduce Dane and let us know what we're going to talk about today?
Yeah. So we met Dane.
Make it good.
Yeah,
make it a good intro.
I'm doing my best. We met Dane when, like, 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago.
We were into
We were
wholesaling.
in that
maybe.
big office.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you remember coming to that
We
big
had
office?
him come in.
Mm-hmm.
You probably came in and like, what are these guys doing? There's like one desk in here.
Yeah, and so we bought your buyer's list,
Mm-hmm.
right? We're wholesaling our deals through another wholesaler at the time. And we're like, we got to start selling our own deals.
Yeah, dude, I was
And
tired.
I think you found out from Facebook, right?
Yeah,
Found him
you were
from
always
Facebook.
you're at RIAs and you're posting all the time. I said, this
Right.
guy probably knows what he's doing. I didn't really know you at that time.
Right. We didn't.
Yeah.
Right.
But we were wholesaling, like Corey was saying, most of our deals, our buyer's list was weak. For like the first year of wholesaling, we had a weak buyer's list, like 100 people.
So we used Utah house buyers to sell most of our deals.
And we
Cool.
got tired after a while, giving away 30%, just like anybody, right? They're just
Sure.
like, hey, freak, look at all this money I'm leaving on the table. And I think I had asked them to buy their buyer's list, and they were like, no way. Because they had us. They were like, hey, we're making money. Why would we give you our buyer's list? So I was like, I'm getting a buyer's list today. And that's like when I decided, I messaged you on Facebook. I said, you got a buyer's list, dude, I'll pay for that. And you're like, well, no one's ever asked me for that, but okay. So we ended up buying your buyer's list. I think we gave you, I don't know if I feel like you got a good deal. I mean,
I
what do
don't
you
even remember
think?
how much it was. But yeah, I remember
Yeah.
feeling like it was fair.
It
Yeah.
was $4,000,
4,500.
4,500.
Yeah.
He hooked us up, and right after we got it, we were able to sell like 3
Yeah, I
deals.
mean,
You guys got a screaming deal.
Is that a screaming deal?
That is a screaming deal.
Because to be honest, like,
What would you sell it for now?
I wouldn't now.
you
You
wouldn't
wouldn't sell
now?
it at all?
No.
Hit us up. We'll sell it.
No.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I call
It
these
is.
guys.
But,
Ours is tripled since. But
dude, honestly, buyer's list is so important. But after you accumulate like a large one, we just feel like we have so many buyers,
Right.
and it's just hopes.
Honestly, I feel like buyers lists are overrated.
You do? Why?
you?
Why is
Yeah.
that?
I mean, we bought Nick Perry's buyer's list
Bought Nick Perry's buyer's list.
for nationwide wholesaling. It didn't help us sell one deal.
really.
There's an art to using a buyer's list. I think email used to be the way, and
Right.
that doesn't get it done.
Oh, it's brutal.
It
Yeah,
doesn't
if
get
you're
it
just
done all the
emailing,
time.
It's tough.
In Utah, that used to be like, hey, you send out an email
Right.
blast, is done. But
It's a done deal.
And our disposition took off when we started text messaging them.
there you go.
Yeah, I got a tip from one of our guys here, and he's like, Dane, why aren't you texting them?
Mm-hmm.
And we switched to that, and it was insane. The deal traction and the deal sizes ballooned. Like,
dude.
it was massive. And I agree, like, everybody, like, a lot of and I can't speak to anybody else's buyer's list because, like, I don't know everybody else's buyer's list, but, there's a lot of people shilling stuff where they, I could go on PropStream or something like that and buy a bunch
Yep.
of, like, quote-unquote buyer's lists and sell it to you all day long and say, oh, this will be great. But I don't know. It's
Yeah,
hit or miss.
We don't count that as a buyer's list. That's like
No.
that's
That's honestly
like
trash.
blasting a list of sellers. It's like the same thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Now it's something, like if
I
I
mean,
was
it's better
brand
than
new,
nothing,
that's
right?
not,
Yeah.
that's not a bad place to start. But yeah, I mean, you kind of craft it and hone it over time. And like you're saying, Nate, like it really is a science. In fact,
Yeah.
I was out of town, like last week or a couple weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And one of our newer guys, I put him in charge of a couple of deals that we need to close up. And I said, be firm with the buyers. Like, you don't need to be soft with them like the sellers. Be firm.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, they're going to take you for a ride. And I don't want to come back and you committed all this BS stuff to these guys.
Yeah,
So be
yeah.
firm. And he was a little too firm on a couple of the deals.
Like, forget you.
Yeah. So the one buyer that we had locked in that we'd gotten earnest money from, he was all pissed and thought we were, taking advantage of him. So I had to jump in and save it and kind of finesse it. But there's this really unique, I feel like this unique dance between like being firm but understanding, and you got to keep guys hopeful. Like, I mean, you guys know it's so incredible how many wholesalers are like, well, if you don't buy this deal, I'll find somebody else. F all you guys, you know. And like,
you don't want to burn bridges.
Burn all your bridges.
I mean, honestly, there's some buyers that are like, you guys make too much money, and then it's just like it's already starting off like this. But
well, with those people, they're never gonna be a good buyer for you anyways.
That are like aggressive.
If they
from
think
the
you're making
beginning.
too much money, like I mean,
and
good luck finding your own deals.
Yeah, and once again, it's like it's a fine balance. Like we've had some deals where there was barely any traction, and you just kind of took what you could get. But we've had other guys, like I had this one guy tell me, I think this was a couple of years ago, and he's like, we have a really firm, like, we don't pay any more than $5,000 to a wholesaler.
Can you believe that?
And I told him, I said, look, I'll be honest with you. We usually make more on our assignment than you're going to make flipping them because I find the deal. And if that's a problem for you, then we're just not going to work together.
That's bold, and I like it. What happened?
We haven't talked since, so I hope he's doing great. I really do, but I think it's important to own your business model and know what you're looking to accomplish.
I don't think flippers understand how much work and money and effort goes into finding deals.
Right. And I had a talk with another buyer the other day, and I'm like, he's like, oh, you guys made $50,000. I'm like, bro, how much do you think it costs to acquire a deal right now? Like, what do you think it costs us to acquire that deal? He's like, I don't know, like $100. I'm like, bro, depending on the lease sorts, it could be $10,000. It could be $10,000 to close a deal.
If it was $100 to acquire a lead, we would be making more money
to acquire
than
a
anyone.
deal.
The profitability, can you imagine?
That would be unreal.
I mean, we'd be flying.
Yeah, it's insane. So I told him, I was like, dude, some lead sources, it's like $10,000.
It is $10,000 some lead sources. Yeah. That's just how it is.
Google Ads, easy spend $10,000 to get a deal.
Easy.
Are you still running your Google Ads?
No, we broke even.
Dude.
Luckily. I got out. I was like,
tough here. And so like
we're not doing that.
It's like a $600, $700 a click sometimes.
Dude, it's brutal.
Is that what you guys were seeing?
I don't even remember. I remember, we literally had and I'm sure there'll probably be other people in Utah that'll laugh, because they know what they're doing. But we probably had 10 calls in 6 months. We closed one of them. But I felt like, I don't know, a lot of those is kind of like doing mail. Like, it was so competitive still.
Oh, you think they're just filling out yours?
Those are kind of the numbers, though. 1 in 10, that's about right.
And I tell you, the longer that I'm around, I'm just not interested in competing for deals. I'm not. I'm just not.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating to see. And I had.
That's all we do.
Right. And
it's crazy,
bro. I hate that business model because it's often you need to be a really good salesperson for that to work, which is important. That's a skill you should craft anyways. But it's also oftentimes a race to the bottom. Who can give the seller the most money? And I think that's great, right? And I want to be really smart about how I say this because we never do it. In my opinion, we've never done a deal where we've put the seller in a worse position than when we met them.
No, yeah.
And there's a lot of people that do, and I think that's unfortunate. We've had plenty of deals we've canceled just because it was the right thing to do. Now, of course, you need to be firm. I'm not interested in backing out of a deal because they want to sell to somebody else for more money.
Yeah,
we need to find a way to work together there. But I feel like we found a really good niche in finding deals where not necessarily there's never competition, but far less than PPC or mail.
Yeah,
and I want to do less deals but big deals. I think our average deal size this year is in the $40,000 range.
That's where it's worth it.
Awesome.
That's when it's worth it.
Oh
right?
yeah.
You start doing deals like 8,000, 10,000, even 15,000 now is not that good.
Right.
For your average wholesale fee.
Right.
It's all about that ratio, right? Between what you spend to get a deal and what you make on the deal.
Right.
And if you're not 4 or 5xing that, you're going to struggle.
Right. And so many new people, especially, and I think all your guys are new people that we're speaking to, right?
Yeah, they're new.
Yeah.
But they need to know the truth.
Yeah. I think it's really important that, in fact, I'll break this down because I
break
think
it down, brother.
We're kind of going all over, but I'll give you a lot of the nuggets that I wish that I would have known when I was new.
Okay. So right now we're going into the nuggets you wish you would have known when you were new.
So let me go. We'll back up a little bit. I'll give you a little bit of introduction for a minute, and then we'll jump into some of these other nuggets that I think would have been really helpful to understand when I was new, to help paint a picture, to really understand what it is that I wanted to create with this business.
Okay.
So like the guys said, I'm Dane. We met
Intro,
a few
baby.
years ago. I got
That was a long
started.
intro.
Yeah, right.
I try to splice these up so
Oh,
people don't
okay.
have to watch. That one will be difficult to splice up. But hey,
You
dude.
can just turn into a buyer's list thing.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, buyer's list for the first portion.
Okay.
So I got started in wholesaling about, what has it been? About 5 years ago. And I was working in the tech industry. Funny enough, I went and got a master's degree because I was scared to be a salesperson. I wanted to educate myself out of having to sell to make good money, was my thought process at the time. And so I went and did a bunch of school, and I was, in fact, this is funny. I remember being in school, and I met this kid. We were playing basketball one night, and I said, what are you majoring in? And he was like, oh, entrepreneurship. He's like, I knock doors during the summer, and I sell pest control. And he thought he was so cool. And I thought in my head, dude, what a freaking loser. Like, he's the only person that doesn't know he's a loser, but he so is. Like, what a scummy sales guy. Come to find out, the dude's like making 6 figures a year. And I'm like, as a college student, dude, I'm probably not even making 20 grand a year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, he was way ahead of the curve.
Hey, I'm not. No offense to all that, but I got my degree in entrepreneurship and I did door-to-door sales for
Yeah,
like
yeah,
6
yeah,
years.
yeah.
So yeah, no,
Scummy sales
I'm
guy.
a scummy. I'm not the scummy sales guy, but I
Sure,
understand what you're saying. Yeah, a lot of those dudes that are just driving around like young, thinking they're cool, they come off as a bunch of douches, right?
Sure.
So I get
But
what
I
you're
wish
saying.
I wish I would have had the insight. Like, he was so much further ahead of the curve than me. So come to find out, right? I went the track of like what the American dream, if you will, is like safety and security and a safe job with benefits and all this stuff. And so I worked at a couple of tech companies. I was doing implementation and I was helping clients use our services and be effective once they were selling. And I moved to a new company. It was actually here in Lehigh. It was a super cool tech company. We were a fintech company. People I was working with were super sharp. Everybody over there was awesome. Like, I'd like made it, right?
Sweet.
And I was on track to make like 70 grand that year if I hit all my bonuses. And I remember getting that job, and I told my wife, I was like, we've made it. Like, we're rich. I'm making 70
We did
grand
it,
a
baby.
year. Like,
We did it, honey.
let's go get a new car. You know what I mean? Like, like, we made it.
And that's after your master's?
Yeah, this is
Okay.
after my master's.
What'd you get your master's in?
It's called Industrial Organizational Psychology. So it's a mouthful, essentially for applying psychological principles to business to help people be more effective and whatnot. So a lot of the people I went to school do human resources or business management for Coke and Pepsi and Google. They do psychometrics and stuff like that. So it's been good. It's been useful in like hiring and building a team. But I spend a fair amount of time trying to convince people, if they have any entrepreneur bones in their bodies, to go and forego school and just start something. Like,
Right.
In fact, I told a guy the other day, I was like, bro, if I could go back to school, I would get as much student debt as I possibly could. I would
Really?
get all of it. Anything they'd throw at me, I would get all of it. And I would use that to make small bets to try to figure out being an entrepreneur, whether it be investing in crypto, which I think if you're not investing in crypto right now, you absolutely should be. You're missing a massive
What do you?
wave
You
if
got
you're not.
Bitcoin and all that stuff? Are you doing
No,
it all?
I don't buy any of that. No, I don't buy Bitcoin, and I'm way more interested in like smaller cap stuff.
Okay.
Not way small, but I want stuff that's like at the cutting edge. So you see a lot of like, I mean, we could talk about crypto all day, but long story short, like, I
Get
would
into
be
it if you got
putting
money.
a little bit in crypto. I would be, playing my hand at trying some different businesses. And you could learn very quickly what worked and what didn't, what you were good at and what you're not.
So you're talking using student debt instead of paying for school, investing in other ventures?
Yeah, because a lot of the time now, I think to pull that off, and I want to, I have to place a caveat, like, I would not commit fraud, right? Like, I'm not trying to commit student loan
man,
debt
you got
fraud.
a lot of listeners here that are interested in what you're saying.
However, that being said, I know tons of people that I went to school with, and they lived these stupid, outrageous lifestyles. And I remember asking the one kid, he'd always show up in like new clothes. I'm like, bro, I've never seen you like work. how do you pay for all this
Right.
stuff?
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, like what do you mean? I just pay for my student loans.
Oh gosh.
He's like, it's easy. I'll just get this really good job when I'm done, and I'll pay the student loans.
Yeah, one of my buddies bought like a brand new TV when we were in college, and I was like, "Where'd you get that money?" He's like, "Oh, student loans."
Right.
I'm like, "Wow."
So I would overfund that like crazy. That's going to be some of the cheapest, easiest money you're going to get in your whole freaking life. And if you have an
Time to go to
entrepreneurial
school, baby.
bone in your
Back
body
to school.
and you're not doing that, you're missing out. Like I've literally have considered, I'm like, what would it look like if I went back to school just to get more
PhD.
funding? Seriously, I've given it not a ton of thought, but I've had a little bit of thought there. And I mean,
How cheap is that money anyway? Isn't it like 2% or something?
Typically.
I think the most expensive loan I had was like 6%. I know that if you start stepping out, like my wife went to one of those like tech schools that's a for-profit school to be a nurse.
Yeah.
I think some of her loans were like 10 or 12%. Maybe that's high though. Maybe it's like 8. But even then, man, like I would take debt like that all day long, amortized over however long it is that they do at that interest rate, because I know I know that with my eyes closed and my hands tied behind my back, I could double, triple, 5x that in a year.
I
easy.
love it, dude. I love it.
Easy. And
That's a good feeling.
That
and
is.
I think this is really important to understand. I'll probably say that phrase a lot. So when I started out, because it's really easy to listen to podcasts like that, and it's really easy to say like, oh, these guys have it figured out, like they could go and spin up something new and make more money. Like you can, but it's like going to the gym. It's a skill set that you learn. You don't get in good shape by going, once a month. You get in good shape by doing it every freaking day.
Yeah.
And it's who you are. It's your lifestyle. And so I found that I love creating opportunities for the people that I work with. I love building a dope team. I like, making money is a nice, benefit of doing those things, but I want a skill set where I could create and build.
Yeah.
And anybody can do that. And you'll find that as you get in and you start doing and trying to build stuff, that you'll find, and I think that if you can find what you're good at as fast as humanly possible and what you're not, and play to your strengths, you're going to be in so much better shape. Like point in case, and this will lead us kind of like a little bit more about me. So I started wholesaling, 5 years ago. It took 6 months. I was like running out of money. I did my first deal. I was sending out mail. I sent $5,000 in mail, and I made like $2,500 on that deal. And I'm like, oh crap, what am I going to do now? I went to an event here locally where actually Brent Daniels, shout out to Brent, credit where credit is due. I was talking TTP. I was talking about his cold calling program. If I'm not mistaken, and maybe I am, but I believe that I'm the first, or really dang close to one of Brent's first like paid students.
You might be, yeah, because I remember I was talking to Jerry Norton. He said Brent Daniels, right, started around that time when you started wholesaling. He started coaching.
Yeah. And so I'm out of money. Brent had come into town, and he's talking about how they're cold calling to find deals. And I'm taking pictures of everything, and I'm writing it all down. Because I'm out of money, and I'm like, I have to change.
Taking that picture. I remember those.
Oh,
they
yeah.
have the big old projector, and you're like...
Oh, the slides pop up, my phone's out, I'm getting all of it.
Oh, gosh.
And I went home, and I said, well, this is what I'm going to do. And I remember... I'd gotten a tax delinquent list here locally in Utah, which come to find out is super competitive. I had no idea at the time. Everyone says it's a great list. And I prayed, and I said to God, I'm like, I'm literally going to call this list till I make money, or you tell me to do something different.
Nice.
And I'm going to do that until I make money, or we lose our house, and we lose our cars, and we lose all of it. Now, my wife didn't know this, but I was ready to freaking lose everything.
I love it.
And go live in my parents' basement, which is a very fortunate, bad circumstance to be in. If that's the worst case scenario, go live in my parents' basement. Let's bet the farm and go.
Let's be real. A lot of people got nice
great.
basements here in Utah.
Right.
These are some nice basements.
How big is
out
the
here.
basement? That's the real question.
now it's a fine basement,
Okay.
And I'm blessed to be in that circumstance. But there's no better time to bet or to make big bets than when you're young and you don't have much to like save. You know, at that time we have like some cheap cars and a house, and big deal if you lose those. So
that's a good thing too at that point to be like, hey, if I lose it, you know, it's gonna be okay. A lot of people have that
That's
fear.
a good mindset.
It's a
Even
good mindset.
losing your house, like being like, if I lose my house, I'll be fine.
Oh yeah, and the
I think
reason
that's a big hurdle people have.
Oh, huge. And the reason that I was willing to bet like that is because I was listening to podcasts like this, and there's guys on there talking about how they do like $1 million a year in revenue, which at the time was like massive. And you hear podcasts now, and it feels like everybody does $1 million a year, and now doing 3, 4, 5, whatever. You know what I mean? But that was, I'm in my head, I'm like, I'll give everything away to figure out how to go make $1 million a year. If that means losing my house and living in my parents' basement for the next year, like, I'm happy to pay that price because the upside's huge.
Right.
It's huge. And so I got on the dialer and I started calling that list, and it was right at 14 hours of dialing. And I get on, and this dude answers, and I say, hey,
14 hours straight?
Oh, no, certainly not. I think that was probably like over the course of a week or something like that, you know.
14 hours, that'd be almost
hours.
Oh, yeah, I was committed. I was like, I woke up at 3 in the morning, and I
just kept going.
And no, that's probably over a course of a week, broken up over a few days. And I'm sitting there, and I feel like it's so important to be connected to like whatever your higher power is and your purpose. Like, I think it's so important to be connected into those when you're trying to create something like a business. And because for me, that kept me going. I really feel like I had a number of times where like we had run out of money. My wife's like, hey, you know, I really respect what you're trying to build here, but we have to make some money here. So
was she working, by the way, or was it just you?
Yeah, so we're and I set us up pretty good. Like, we were renting our basement at the time, so our mortgage payment, it almost covered our mortgage. She was a nurse, and then we were breeding dogs as well. We still have the dog breeding business that we've expanded, and so we're doing good, but not enough that like we could cover all of our expenses. So I had about a 6-month runway, and so I'm about to that 6 months. And she's like, Dane, you know, you need to get a job or you need to make some money. And I'm like, I mean, I don't disagree with you. You know?
Sounds like you're in a tough position, man.
Oh, 100%. But you have to be put in those positions to find out like who you are, what type of man or woman you are. And I've always been somebody that like the pressure, even though it's not comfortable, produces really good results. Like, I was always the person that stayed up all night doing the assignment at school, like the night before or in the morning before school. Like, I'm freaking good when the pressure's on and I need to perform. I'm freaking really good at that.
Love it.
And so I was in that position. I really felt strongly. Oh, so she's like, Dane, you know, you need to go get a job, and I told her that I'd apply for a few. And so every time I'd go to like put my hands on the keyboard to apply for a job, it was like God is like, Dane.
He'd hold you back.
Literally. He's like, what are you doing? Stop. Like, that's what I'm hearing in my head. He's like, stop, Dane. And then there would come the reassurance. He's like, Dane, I've got you. You know, and I'm like, you know, well,
so don't give up. You got an e-commerce business to run in the future.
There's a bigger purpose here, though. And I'm like, okay, you know, like one way or another, God's either going to make this work or we're going to lose our house. Wow. And either of those is like not a terrible situation in my head at the time. And so I'm on the dialer, 14 hours deep. This dude, he answers. I say, you know, would you consider selling your house? And he says, no. And I'm about to say like, oh, okay, no problem. Do you have anything else you consider selling? And hang up on him. And I don't know why, but I paused long enough for him to say no. And then he said, it's because it's not worth anything. And I was like, oh, what do you mean by that? You know, like I knew enough at this point that I'm like, okay, there might be something here. So I'm like, what do you mean by that? And he said, long story short, he had this deal where he bought it like 5 years or 6 years previous. He bought it at an auction. He wasn't an investor, but he'd had enough cash. It was like 50 or 60 grand that he bought this house cash. It was a hoarder house. He was going to clean it out and live in it, right? So he bought it, he cleaned it out, he moved all of his belongings in, he slept there one night, and he said, there's no way I can live in this dump. He left almost all of his stuff there and moved in with his friends and had been living with his friends for the last 5, almost 6 years. And
That sounds like the perfect
oh,
situation
dude,
for what
like
we do.
God, like coming down out of heaven and handing me like this
The best
perfect
lead of all
opportunity.
time.
Yeah,
The greatest
Dude.
like, on the golden platter.
Dude, yeah.
Says, I couldn't even give it to you. You're like, are you sure about that?
Now, that being said, now it looked great right on the surface. I look it up on the tax assessor. I think the tax assessor says it's worth like 120 grand. And I tell the guy, I'm like, well, what if I could find a way to like just put the money back in your pocket that you paid for? Like just get you out, get your money out so you're not tied to this anymore and you could just move on. And he's like, oh, you think you could do that? And I'm like elated right now. It says 120 on the tax assessor. I'm trying to get it for 50 or 60. I'm like, this has to be a deal. I haven't even seen the property. I'm like, oh yeah, I think we can. Where do you live? Like, I'll just come to wherever you're at, and we'll get the paperwork out of the way, no problem, and then I'll deal with the property after. He's like, oh yeah. So I jump in the car, print off this real estate purchase agreement, and I'm praying the whole way. I'm like, God, don't let somebody call this guy before I get there. Don't let them see any marketing. Like, just let me get there.
No mailers, no
and
text.
I need
please.
to put this deal under contract and figure it out. So super nice guy. I go over there. I put it under contract, and I'm super excited, right? And then the next thing I find is that the house is in bankruptcy.
Oh.
I'm like, son of a bitch.
Yeah.
This thing
seriously.
is like, this is potentially a dead deal now.
Uh-huh.
Like, could be a dead deal. And in fact, one of my mentors that's done a world of good for me, I asked him about it. He's like, oh yeah, Dane, that deal's dead. Like, don't waste your time. But I'm in a position where I have to perform. Like, I have to, no matter what. So I have to see this lead to the end to make sure it's a deal or it's not. And so I talked to the seller, and he's like, well, the only reason that it's in bankruptcy is because I wanted to save it from going to tax sale. I said, oh, that's it. And get this, he had been on the tax list for 5 years.
Oh, wow.
Like here in Utah, they go to sell after 5 years. And he had been marketed to. When I bought that house and we went in there, I should say when I put it under contract and we went in there were stacks of mail, like, we'll buy your house, filled in the mailbox, in the house. Like,
He just didn't care.
He had probably had 1,000 postcards over the years.
How much money would that be? 30, 40 cents a mailer?
Oh, yeah.
All that money, just burn it.
$100.
Just insane.
Thousands of dollars, just burn it.
But he wasn't ready yet, right? And timing is everything in wholesaling. And so,
it is.
So I call his attorney and I say, hey, like, what do we need to do to make this deal work? He says the only thing that's tied up in the bankruptcy is the house. Is that right? And he says, yeah, that's it. And I said, what do we need to do to sell this? Me and my partners, or we want to buy this. He said, oh, I can just dismiss the bankruptcy if you guys have a purchase agreement in place. I said, oh, I got the purchase agreement. He said, send it to me. I said, oh, cool. So I sent it to him. Like 3 days later, bankruptcy is dissolved on the premise that the house is sold, right?
Beautiful.
And so I will go and I find a seller, which is hilarious because at the time I think I sold it for like what I put it under for 60. I made just a hair over 70 grand as the assignment fee.
You made 70,000 on your first
second
assignment
deal,
fee?
70 grand, just over.
That's great, dude.
And which is what I made in a whole year of my job. Like, it was
gosh.
insane.
You were
What is your
ecstatic.
first deal? What'd you make?
2,500, right?
2,500. I'd sent $5,000 in mail. Yeah.
And going back, you probably could have sold it for more, probably, right? Than making 70, you probably could have made more, right?
Oh, for sure. If I would have had a big buyer's list and all that stuff, absolutely. And in fact, if I were in that position, we did a deal with a guy the other day, and we work with a lot of wholesalers locally. And I say, hey, like, just call us and we'll sell your deal for a flat $5,000. And I had a guy that we sold his first and second deal, and I think he made like 30 and 40 or 50 grand, but 30 on the first and 40 or 50 on the second. Mm-hmm. I'm like, man, if I would have had somebody like me with the reach, I probably would have made 100 grand on that
100%.
thing.
Now
that being
so you only charge
Where was
$5
this deal
grand
at?
to blast out deals?
Yeah, we just do a flat 5. Yep.
You like that more than the 30% or
I mean, I absolutely want to make more. Like, we sold a deal for the guy this week. He made over 100 grand on the assignment fee. Now, I would have loved to have had more of that.
That's awesome.
But my thought process is,
he's going to keep coming back to you.
Yeah, exactly. And we want to have a good working relationship where we can do more business. So, like, and the deals vary a little bit. Like, if you need me to come in and be Rumpelstiltskin and spin, straw into gold, I'm going to make some more money because there's more work.
Yeah.
But if you bring me a deal and you're like, Dane, I just need some traction for you to sell this, then yeah, we just do a flat 5
That's
and
so
it's
cool,
easy.
bro. Good job.
That's awesome.
But so I went and did that deal and we closed it and it was great. And yeah, so that's kind of how I started and what we got into and what we do now. And
See, we had a similar our second or third deal would have been giant like that, but we just didn't know.
Sure.
And we ended up selling to one of our partners that we were working with at that time, and he got a killer deal. I think he made probably like $200,000 on that thing, like 150.
Okay.
It was a sick deal.
Sure.
So yeah, in the beginning, what you're offering right now is the $5,000 to help. Like that's so helpful to new wholesalers because they're gonna get taken advantage of by a buyer, like and not knowing.
Oh, yeah, and if you call me and I'm the buyer, right, if I need to buy, like right now, I need to buy properties to cost segregate them so I don't pay any taxes for this year, you know what I mean? So I'm looking for deals, and absolutely, like, I want to find good deals. I don't want to go pay retail, and
Like,
all the investors are the same. Everybody wants a good deal.
Yeah.
And so, you know, like, you just have to be smart about what you're doing. Now, that being said, right, I think it's important you want to treat buyers well. Like we have a deal right now where we're refunding some money because the seller was a freaking liar. They conned some money out of the deal and didn't tell about a tenant that was in place with a lease agreement for 6 months.
Gosh.
And he prepaid like 6 G's. And the buyer's like, well, I wouldn't have bought this otherwise. I'm like, well, you did. Where do we stand? And he was like, well, if you can give me the $6,000 back, we'll be good. I'm like, well, that's a lot better than a lawsuit, and he's going to keep coming back doing deals, and that's the right thing to do. So we just send him the check, and like we keep him moving.
Pulled a sneaky one on you
Oh,
guys.
he screwed us.
He knew what he was doing.
Well,
all the time,
and that
too.
was us selling a deal for another guy, this new wholesaler, and there just was some due diligence that wasn't done that we do on our own deals, but I didn't even think to tell him because
It's a lot of work for you to check on.
Oh, it's a lot. Yeah.
See what they've done. I mean, we've JV'd with a lot of people too.
Check.
Oh,
doing
lots
a
of-
deal.
Yeah, you
JVing
guys know.
can be tough. JVing, you're technically JVing, but just for a flat fee. It can be pretty intense sometimes.
It can be a
be
lot.
easy or it can be a nightmare. So
Right.
Mostly nightmares
well,
for us at least.
Oh, really? Ours have been pretty smooth, and I feel like we're dialing in our process. But I think that deals can absolutely be messy. Deals can be clean. Usually they're messy, and I feel like it's our job in our company. We try really hard to like set fair expectations, just tighten it up. I know you guys do a good job of that too, and nothing ever goes perfect. But I feel like we head off a lot of the problems before they become big problems, and we keep it moving.
sweet.
So it's been good.
So that was your intro, huh?
Yeah, that was my intro. I could talk all day. What are we?
I'll-
We're 32 minutes deep.
Are we?
Yep.
Well, I'm down to keep asking you
Sure
some
we?
questions if you got time.
Yeah,
How
I
you-
got
how you
another
looking?
30 minutes.
How are you?
What time is it?
4.
Yeah, I got some time.
All right.
You got to be
I
out of
just
here
need to leave here around 4:30.
Okay.
at
to go
around
sign
4:30.
NGT.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I actually got to get so let's do about 10, 15 more minutes.
Okay. Yeah.
So, I was really interested to find out what you said. If you were doing this again from the beginning, I mean, you told us about the roller coaster ride you had. What would you give to the audience if they're starting? Most of the people that are listening are brand new.
Sure.
So, what are some things that you would want to let the audience know that you wish you knew when you first started?
Oh man.
That wholesaling's hard.
Oh, freaking way hard. Yeah. Honestly, and this is really interesting. And I think this is great perspective, especially for new people. I thought that when I started, I was going to go like dominate the world and we'd make just buckets of cash and it'd be easy because that's what most coaching programs tell you. It's going to be way easier than it actually is.
Yeah.
And it's been really eye-opening to get to know a lot of people across the country. And you guys and I, we know a lot of the same people. I mean, and there's people that are doing, millions of dollars every year. I don't know many people doing more than like 4-ish or 5-ish million a year gross.
Mm-hmm.
And most of them, at all right profit margins. But I would say that the law of diminishing returns, in my opinion, starts to happen after you're making about $1.5 million to $2 million a year, at least as the market currently stands.
Mm-hmm.
And the way I've treated it, because I've had the foresight from some of these other guys, is that
are making all this money.
that are making all the money is we go to these masterminds and the real good stuff seems to happen like after midnight for some reason, when you're just hanging out and shooting the breeze, and then like the real magic starts to
the
happen.
the truth comes
real
out.
ideas come
So
out.
like I specifically try to sleep extra before I go because I know I'm gonna be up super late and I'm not gonna be sleeping because I want to have like those really intimate.
Does the alcohol start coming
conversations.
too when they start giving the shooting the truth? Or-
Some of them, but for the most part, like I would say no.
Okay,
Like
they
a lot
just-
of the time, it's level-headed, but I feel like everybody is kind of tired, and then they're more willing to open up.
Yeah, because everybody wants to put their best foot forward on
Yeah.
how their business is doing.
Oh, 100%. But I can't tell you a single person that I've met. Now I haven't met everybody, right? But every single person that I would say, yeah, just about everybody that's coming to mind
Shoot it,
that's
bro.
doing $1 million or more a year that I know personally that's really gone into depth with me on their business is like, Dane, like, I wouldn't rebuild this. Like, if my team all quit today, I wouldn't rebuild this. I would go
Wow.
do something else.
They'd go do e-commerce.
Yeah, or they'd go do coaching, or they'd go do. There's a million ways to make a buck.
Mm-hmm.
But and so I've taken that foresight to heart, and and my opinion in the business is I think that the business should allow you to go and use money to make easier money. Like we talked about before, like wholesaling is hard money.
It's a grind.
Hard money.
I mean,
It's a
Did it-
grind even thinking about it.
well, I mean,
it's hard money to make.
well, I mean, we were talking to Jordy, and he's like, even finding buyers that like are motivated to
New
buy your
deals all the
properties, get
time.
deals all the time. That's the grind. Like I
Right.
think, like what you're saying, there's just a sphere of like you having businesses
Well,
that
like
you
a
have to go
marketing, prospecting,
Mark-
sales business is a lot of work.
Oh, it's so much work.
That's just the way they are,
get. It's
right?
just yeah.
And it's not a sellable business. And I wish I would have given more credence to that idea when I started.
You mean sellable? Like, hey, if you presented your business to me and said, hey, will you buy this?
You'd offer them $1.
Yeah.
and I'd say,
Yeah, what are you going
can
to pay
keep
for
it.
my business?
$10.
Like it's not a real valuable
There's
asset.
real no assets to
No,
sell.
exactly. And so I look back, and I had one of my buddies, Gabe, out in Florida. He's great, and he has a operation where they do a couple $1 million a year. And he's like, Dane, it's really fascinating. He's like, I sit back and I think how much time I've put into my business over the last 7 years, all to build something that's not sellable.
Mm-hmm.
And he's made plenty of money, but he's like, man, if I would have put that time into building something that was a sellable business, I mean, if I started now and I spent the next 5 to 7 years building a business, I promise it's a 10 to 50 to $100 million plus business, period. Because I know enough about business now that I could go start in a segment where I could build a sellable asset that has market desire that people would pay really good money for.
So let me ask you this really quick. So most of the reason people get into wholesaling because they see the big checks, right? The
Right.
big money, and they say, "Hey, I can cherry pick. I can cherry pick stuff I want to keep."
Right.
How out of those people that are doing all that volume, and you yourself, how many do you really keep? Because that's why we kind of.
That's why most people
that's why
get in.
most
They
people-
want passive income, right?
Yeah, they want to get some. Oh, this is a
Yeah.
great property. Instead of wholesaling it, let me keep it for my portfolio.
Yeah.
So how much does that really happen that much in your opinion, Dane?
I would say no. It's really easy to get caught up, and you're making, especially like the ones you make the most money are really the ones you probably should keep, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like they are, because they're the best deals and appreciation and all that type of stuff. Now, that being said, there's a trade-off, right? Because you have to keep your business going. And so you have to be generating revenue, and so you have to sell off deals. I don't know and I know a lot of people. I don't know many people that like love real estate for the sake of real estate. Like there's very few landlords, in my opinion, that I've met that own hundreds or thousands of doors that they're like, I just freaking love real estate. They don't care about real estate.
They love
just
money,
wanna,
yeah.
Yeah, they want to make a check and have an impact. And the way that I personally, because I like the fast money. If you can give me an easy check, man, I'm the biggest sucker to take it. Absolutely. Because like a check now is oftentimes better than one with hopes and dreams later. And I'd rather take the guarantee now most of the time. And so where I've kind of come to like a good balance is I buy rentals in order to make it so I don't pay taxes. That's it. I can make it cash flow wise and revenue wise. I can make way more money building businesses. Period. It's not even close. But I don't know a better way to pay no taxes than buying rentals. And so I do that through a cost segregation study. If you guys, after the podcast, I can give you guys my information. You could tag it in the podcast. But if you guys need help with cost segregation, feel free to reach out to me. I've got a number of contacts. But essentially the way the math works out on a cost segregation study is you take your income, your taxable income, and you multiply that by 3.
Okay.
And that's the amount of real estate you need to purchase in order to wash your income away.
Okay.
For tax purposes.
That's good info.
Yeah, so if you make $1 million a year, you need to go buy $3 million worth of real estate and cost segregate it all so you don't pay taxes. And in fact, I got a check for $5,000 last year back from the government.
That's awesome.
So that's kind of how the math works out. And so I base it kind of on that, where I say at the beginning of the year, hey, I think I'm going to make roughly X. I'm going to start buying some stuff, and then it turns out to be a little bit of a blitz at the end of the year to try to catch up to buy whatever I need to buy.
Are you getting most of the rentals you're buying from the MLS, from properties that you're getting through your business? How are you getting your rentals?
Yeah, so I'm getting them through partnerships. I'm getting them through other wholesalers. I'm getting them from our deal flow. And so once again, I just want to buy enough to be able to make it so I don't pay taxes. And so, so those are the streams that I'm getting them from. And my priority, and every market's a little bit different, but in Utah, the cash flow is typically never going to be good. We've done pretty good with our Airbnbs. The cash flow is pretty good if you go an Airbnb, in my experience thus far. But
the rentals are weak because the property prices are so high?
Yeah, the cash flow sucks. And so you're buying it for appreciation, and you're buying it to be able to not pay taxes. And so it's this tricky balance where, I certainly don't want to pay taxes. And so I say, hey, maybe my tax liability is like $100,000 in taxes. Well, I'd much rather buy a rental property and keep that rather than paying the taxes. But also, like, rentals are far from this passive, hopeful dream of mailbox money and, unicorn roses. Yeah, like, you need to have the economies of scale for that really to work. And that probably means... Now, I promise you could find people that would say...
That's why people like multifamily, right?
Yeah, that's why they like multifamily. I would say that generally speaking, we are... In fact, I was arguing this the other day with one of my buddies. I think that you probably need like 50 plus doors before you start hitting the economies of scale. Now I can only speak to buying in Utah and Memphis. I've bought in both. And I have rentals in both, but primarily here in Utah because properties are expensive. But until you start getting economies of scale where it pencils to have management and assistance and help and all that type of stuff, like you're the person they're calling to go and fix crap, or
it's another grind.
It's another grind, and the problem is when you're in a place like Utah, if you don't have the economies of scale and the cash flow isn't that good already, well, now you've got to find a way to still take care of and maintain the properties, service the tenants, and rehab them when something bad happens. Like I have a seller finance deal that I bought early this year that on paper was a great deal. I bought it. It was $15,000 down for this little duplex. There were meth heads in both sides, but they were both paying rent at the time. I knew I was going to have to remediate the property. But I thought I'd probably see like 6 months of cash flow before that happened.
Real quick, do you know how much it costs to remediate a property usually?
Yeah, so those ones that I remediated over there were like $5,000 a unit. And those are small. Like those are only 400 square feet a unit. So maybe more for bigger property, but it's really not as expensive as it used to be.
Okay. Sorry, go back.
And so so when it push came to shove, it was a nightmare getting them out. The police came and raided the property, so that was helpful. And I think I was on the news, like, it's just part of the fun.
And the news and the tagline, it's like, I'll buy your house.
Right, I should have worn a shirt with branding on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that property, like, I got it on seller finance terms, which was great, but now I've got to put another, I thought it was only going to be like 20 or 30 grand into it. I think I'm probably like closer to 60 or 70 with the rehab and everything that's needed. It needed, come to find out, I need a little bit of foundation work and some of this other BS. That's my fault. I didn't do enough due diligence, and that's my fault. Like
we usually don't.
yeah. And I learned from that. Like, I learned that, so now we do our due diligence much more thorough after buying that property. And so that property goes from, like, a deal where I only have 10 grand sunk into it and I'm cash flowing $1,000 a month to now I've got 70 in it. And now, like, I'm trying to think, how can I increase my cash flow so I can get my money back in the next couple of years? So I think with Airbnb and that one, I should be able to get my money back in about 2 years. But, like, the return on that sucks. That's 50% a year, which for a lot of people, that's a lot of money. But in a business, if you're only getting 50% a year of money, you're only getting 50%, like, you're out of business.
Where'd you find that? From another wholesaler?
That was from our marketing.
Okay, your marketing.
Yeah, so that was from our marketing.
How do you pay your team out on ones that you keep?
So we treat it just like a wholesale. Okay. And I say, okay, like...
So you're wholesaling it to yourself, which you're probably another LLC you have.
I say, what do we think that this thing could wholesale for? We come to an agreement, and then I pay commissions based on that amount.
That makes sense.
That's a good move.
Yeah.
So
what
go ahead.
So it sounds like you are telling the listeners to bump wholesaling.
Yeah, man, because we're like...
I am. I 100% am.
Do you suggest people, like, start with that route, or do you suggest a different route for people?
Because honestly, you are where you are, and we are where we are, most people are, because they go through this furnace.
Because of the furnace, 100%.
Right? And you can make money in the furnace, but...
It's hot.
It's hot. Yeah, so I say all this bad about wholesaling. Now, there's a ton of benefits, right? Like, once you can get out of wholesale purgatory, it's really a pretty cool place to live.
What would you say that is? Like 5, 6, 7? Like, how many deals would you say?
So I don't think it's so much deals, because once again, for us, like, we've only done, I think of our own deals this year, I think we've done like 30 deals. We've JV'd on like another, I don't know, 10 or 15 or something like that. But we've only done like 30 deals. So you see these other guys that are like, we do 30 deals a month. I'm like, forget that.
Good for you.
How can I do 30 deals?
What have you done in revenue from those 30?
So we're at about 1.3 million. We should finish pretty close to 1.5 this year.
That's awesome. Was that your goal?
Our goal is 1.4.
Yeah. Okay, so that's awesome.
So that's good, yeah.
So it seems like you achieved that with larger... Not more like trying to do more deals, but trying to get bigger.
I want to do better deals, right. And our team is like fairly nimble. So I've got me, and then I have my admin, Brandy, who's like my right hand. So when I talked earlier about figuring out what you're good at, I'm not good at integrating stuff. Like, if you gave me a task and said, Dane, like we were talking about, go figure out this CRM, like, I'm the worst person. It's going to take... I take that back. Like, I could figure it out. And I'm not terrible at it, but it's going to be slow, and I'm going to hate life. I'm going to hate it.
I hate that stuff, too.
And it's going to go slow because I hate it.
You're good at it, but I don't know if you
I don't
like it
either.
But he does it.
Yeah.
But I have to.
You got to, I mean, that's...
Because we don't have Brandy on our team.
We got to find a Brandy.
You need to find a Brandy, yeah. Like, you need to find a true integrator that's what they do, and that's what they thrive on. Yeah. And she loves that. Like, she loves putting a system together, and she's like, this is running so well. And I'm like, yes, that's what we need. And so Brandy is like the bomb. And then next, Brennan, I need to really, like, put a lot of respect on Brennan's name. He's been with me. So Brennan, my little brother, has been with me for like 3 years now. He's been with me the longest. And he's the most crucial piece to our company, period. Because if Brennan didn't help me, like, we wouldn't have been able to do anything that we needed. And so Brennan runs our sales, and he's like a monster closing deals. He's become incredible at it. So Brennan was instrumental. And then we picked up Brandy, and Brandy was able to help me and Brennan just get organized, and it was crazy. Just adding Brandy, we went from doing $300,000 to $800,000 the next year, from one person on a 3-person team.
That's awesome, man.
And then we've got a couple more people right now. We've got Tyler and Jason that work with lead management and sales, and so our team. And then Nate helps as well. He's admin, but we've got crossover, so Nate and Brandy help run our e-com business as well. So I really think the sweet spot is like, a team of like, I don't know, 3 to Well, you can make it as big as you want, but probably like 3 to 5 or 6 is including you is where you can get to a sweet spot where you're out of wholesale purgatory, where you're not necessarily like hanging out on a beach making money, but the machine and system is running not only on your efforts.
Right, yeah.
And so we've got to a place now where, like, for the most part, I go in and I like the high level stuff. I love building the team and doing things like that. But I don't even know how the CRM works, because
It's
like,
probably a good feeling.
yeah, like we have a new CRM. I don't even know how it works. I know that
That's
it does
so cool.
drip campaigns and it's supposed to help us be more efficient and run our KPIs. But other than that, I mean, once you get to a place
You're like, I don't even know what our KPIs are. It's getting figured out.
no, I can tell you our KPIs. You need
Okay.
to know those as the business
Okay,
owner.
good.
But like, but yeah, it's really
I
kind
got
of
a question for you. How many leads would you say your team is getting a week, like to work with?
We're getting about, so last quarter we were trying everything. We were doing freaking mail and PPC and Facebook and radio and cold calling, and we were doing everything. And I find that for some reason we're really good with phone marketing. That's always
calling?
where we've made our money.
Cold calling?
Texting, and RVM. It's where we've always made our money. In fact, before texting got big,
gosh.
we created our own texting platform.
remember
and
that.
we printed money. It was insane how much
I
money
remember
we
you
made.
came into our office and you showed us your little rinky-dink thing
Oh,
that you built,
rinky-dink
and I was
for
like,
sure.
this thing sucks.
It was so cool. We made so much money from that, though. It was
Dude,
insane.
texting was the greatest thing ever
the greatest.
back in the day. Now
That was
it's
so great.
it's tough now.
It's tough now. Yeah, it's tough now.
Do you still use your own service that you built?
No, we don't use it anymore just because, like, I'm finding to run, like, a tech operation, it's a lot to have a developer that's always fixing problems and all that stuff. And I find that with the wholesale company, in the end of the day, I want to try to outsource the lead flow, and I just want leads coming into the company and us being focused on closing them and selling them. That's
So
it.
You were doing everything last month. What would you
Yep.
say you were getting? The whole month, the week? How were you split it? How many leads would you say you were getting?
So we were getting, in fact, I can look it up here. But
While you're looking that up, if you're not doing your own marketing now, how are you getting leads?
So we cut out pretty much all that crap, and we said, what are we good at? Well, we're good at freaking phone marketing. And so we went and we have 2 full-time cold callers that we've had all year, but their connect rate with the dialer has gotten worse and worse. In fact, this last quarter, they were like 1% connect rate. I called them. I said, "Look, like, you have to fix this, or I have to find somebody else, because this is a dialer
Is this
issue."
a company? Or
Yeah.
It's a company.
Yeah.
that's
Oh,
doing
I
it for you.
outsource the cold calling. I don't want to manage cold callers. I don't want to train them. I don't want to
It's the worst
check
thing
on the
ever.
dialer. I don't
do
want a
you-
cold
who do you
call
use?
company. The verdict is still out on who's any good. So feel free to reach out to me, or I can talk to you guys later. But I don't have somebody. If you would have talked to me at the beginning of the year, I said these guys are the jam, but they just haven't been nearly as
down.
good since.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, way slowed down. So this quarter we've gone just phone marketing. So we're doing RVM, we're doing text messaging, and we're doing cold calling, and we've made more money this quarter than last. I think largely because we spent so much energy on stuff last quarter that just didn't produce for us. So that was really interesting. Now these numbers I would say are a little bit wonky, because if you're doing
We have 6 cold callers.
Do you?
Yeah, from Egypt, and they produce like 2 leads a day each.
1 to 2.
1 to 2 leads a day.
That's about what we're seeing from cold calling too. Yeah.
And they're a toss-up always. It's always like,
Oh.
house is in great condition. They're open to selling. It's like that's like 90% of the leads.
We've tightened up ours where I said, hey, like, you need to get better information here. You can't work for us. Like, I want to have these criteria filled out almost every single time. And if that isn't filled out, like, don't even send it through. Because I want our guys, like, focused on doing good things and working with good leads.
Something to consider.
Yeah.
It's hard. Always hard to do though, because those cold callers, they just want to push stuff through.
Yeah,
That's what we have
100%.
lead managers for. Filter that out.
Right. All right, so Q3. Now I think this is important to understand. If you're doing RVM, like, your number of leads is just going to be insane.
Okay.
So our
And you're counting a lead as someone calling back. I'm assuming.
I'm counting a lead as like we break it up as like total leads, total contacted leads, and then total interested leads.
Okay.
So like for Q3 last quarter, we had 1,121 total leads. 724 of those were contacted. 42 were interested.
In the whole quarter?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, 1,000.
Yep, just a little bit over 1,000.
And that's with you trying everything from PPC to.
And the total
REM.
leads are like, this isn't like everybody calling in, right? So like if we do all of them, like, I've got 1 million RVM, we've got 6 million cold calls, we've got 100,000 SMS. I mean, like, the amount of marketing that went out is insane. So the total leads, I would say, is like, a little bit quantified. There's some reason to actually call them back. So this isn't like just a callback.
Yeah.
This is something where we said, hey, there's some reason to call them back.
Because I think it's extremely important for these new wholesalers watching to know how much it requires to get leads to come into your business.
Did you hear his outreach? You're close to like 10 million.
Oh, it's insane.
Outbound actions.
It's absolutely insane.
You have to.
Yeah.
Now, do you have anything set up to protect you from ambulance chasing attorneys from your texting, your RVM? Do you have like a?
We haven't had any problems.
Do you have it set up like an
knock
offshore
on
account
wood.
or anything like that?
Yeah,
Or do you-
like we have a separate phone number. Like I tell our team, we're really specific. Hey, like never give anybody your own cell phone. Never tell them your last name. We always use a general. When somebody calls, I don't say, "Hey, this is
blank or
this
whatever.
is Blink Home Buyers."
Saves
I
Utah
say,
House
"Hey,
Buyers."
this is right." Whoever you don't like, you don't.
Just kidding.
No, I say, "Oh, this is Dane or Jason or Brandy, whoever, with the Home Buyers Network."
Okay.
Home Buyers Network. I like that.
Yeah, so that's how we answer.
Good luck
it.
coming for us. We're at the Home Buyers Network.
Yeah, it's just really general and.
Okay, so you don't have like an offshore account where you pay your, you don't pay from like
the
an
only
account.
person that we've ever heard that does that is that one guy.
We have a guy that he found a way to pay for his texting, cold calling, all that through an offshore account. So they if they try to track it, it goes to that.
Supposedly.
That's not a bad
That's
idea.
That's a supposed thing.
The dude does like a.
That being said, it's just like being an entrepreneur is just risk management.
Right.
What is the likelihood that you get nailed for TCPA stuff? I know one person, and I know thousands of investors. I know one person that changed their marketing because they got scared bad enough by the state attorney to stop RVM. And that was in the state of Florida. That's really finicky. I know buckets of others that get complaints or notices, and they're like, I just ignore them.
So I'm still a little shocked. So 10 million in outreach, pretty much in the in your
You
third
said
quarter.
6 million RVM, 3-some million cold calls.
Yeah.
3 million cold calls. That's
No, it
from
was-
the dialer.
That was dials.
Dials.
Yeah, so dials.
What's outreach, right?
Outreach.
Yeah. So that's outreach.
So Corey, you're the he kind of runs our marketing. He does run our marketing. So keep that in mind. That's the volume.
So Dan, I have a question. Going back to should people start in wholesaling?
Yeah. So
Or
okay.
should they do something else?
So I say all this in that I think that it really is important to know yourself. So what do you really want to get out of a business and what do you want to learn? Like honestly, if I would have put all this energy into e-com, I'd probably be worlds ahead. Or if I would have put it in crypto, I'm so bullish on crypto. Like if you have any desire to be an entrepreneur, go put your energy in crypto. Like I think that's the best way to become a billionaire. With like,
is that buying crypto you're saying, or is that like starting a business that creates crypto?
I mean, there's so many ways. Like I was listening to a podcast the other day, and this guy was like, he had a marketing agency, and they changed in 2017 to a bunch of his marketing streams dried up, and he said, and the crypto boom was happening, and so they rebranded themselves as like the company to come to really like market an ICO for a crypto launch, and the business went berserk.
Yeah.
I think there's so many ways that you can position yourself around crypto, whether it be buying it, whether it be creating services around it, whether it be learning to code. I mean, the world there is limitless. If I were to start a new business today,
Are you doing that, by the way? Are you trying to get into that space?
I am.
Okay.
I don't know how
You're a
it's
smart
going to
guy,
come
bro.
to fruition yet, but I am.
Because I mean, I was on one of my buddies just reached out to me from college and was like, "Hey, do you want to hop on a webinar about how you can invest in this new venture that, like, they'll give you crypto in return for like investing in like gold? Like, I don't know, I didn't understand.
It's the gold token and the crude oil and
You've heard it?
I bought it. Yeah.
Oh, you got into that?
I got
what
10 oil shares right
so
now.
what did you
and
pay?
one gold.
What is it, like 1,000? It was like 1,000 per share of
It was like 2,000 when I bought, so I was later than some of the earlier guys. Okay,
so you're in on that.
Yeah,
Okay.
so
Yeah,
like
so
20 G's in there, yeah.
I did heard that, and I was like, I really don't understand. Like, because
But the payback on it, and the reason I made the decision to pull the trigger on that one is because, like, with zero price appreciation, now knock on wood, it doesn't go to zero. Everything can go to zero in crypto. But with no price appreciation and very little marketing right now, it's a 6-month payback. And I was like, a 50% return on my money where I can buy these miners before the price appreciation? I like that bet. And I think there's a lot of people that are going to like a crypto asset that has a little bit more backing. Now, it's not tied perfectly to gold or oil or any of that. But I don't know of any other projects that have a real world value proposition like that.
When did you get it? When did you buy it?
I bought about a couple weeks ago.
Okay, yeah. I had that call last week, and it was interesting.
Yeah.
It seems like people are making money from just trying to sell people what do they call them? The shares, or like what?
Yeah, the shares.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's a business right there. People just having these webinars that are selling you the shares, and I'm sure they're probably getting a cut, right?
Selling a shovel.
100%. Yeah. Absolutely.
So but you're just saying like the crypto space is a great space to get into, whether you're selling the shares, you're doing something.
Oh yeah, there's so many opportunities. You get on YouTube, like I've spent probably 100 hours on YouTube in the last month in the night, just like on this addiction to try to find massive gains. Like, it's stupid. And I'm telling you, like I've got a few $100,000 in crypto. I'm trying to get more that I could sink in there because I really think like you go hit a 5 or a 10 or a 20x and like,
and it's like you in the
I'll
beginning losing your house, you're like, who cares? Yeah.
Right. And so, so back to your
it.
question. I think that real estate's a beautiful place to start. In fact, I was talking with one of my mentors, Joe, that I talked about with you a little bit before. And Joe's just dope as could be. I love Joe. With Joe's help, we've been able to just grow exponentially, and I learned more in my 6 months of working with Joe than I earned in my 6 years of going to college. Like, easy. It wasn't even freaking close. And so as far as like real world business experience, now you could get business experience in a lot of places, but I got so much value from learning real estate and, like you're saying, being in the fire, feeling the heat. If you have a desire to do real estate, like, go do it. I think you should 100% go do it. I'm telling you it's hard, and I'm telling you it's a grind. It 100% is. But if that's where your heart and desire lays, then go do it. Like, there's a million ways to make a buck. Go do real estate, start wholesaling, and just be true to yourself and honest about what you like and be willing to pivot away. My wife has said a number of times, she's like, Dane, like you've said that this pace of work would slow eventually. She's like, when is it going to?
Right.
And it's I
don't think it's going to slow down, bro. If you run a wholesaling business,
it's rare that you can spend a minimal amount of time on wholesaling and like just go kick it with your family. There's not many people pulling that off. Now, it feels like there is when you're on YouTube and stuff and everybody's selling the dream. There's not many people. In full disclosure, I probably work like 10 hours a week in my wholesale company. Like, if you set up your meetings and you can have your reports set up, like I probably spend 10 hours a week. It's not that much, but I'm busy building other things, and I've been able to take a little bit of step back to spend time with family and whatnot. But yeah, I would say go for it. If you like wholesaling, just understand it's not easy, but if you're willing to put in the work, like, there's an obscene amount of money to make. And I think one of the things I wanted to know when I was starting out is everybody says, oh, I made $1 million. Well, what'd you take home? Like, I don't care that you made $1 million. It sounds great, you know? Like, someone could say, oh, I went on a date with like Britney Spears back in the day when Britney was cool. Well, you know, like, I don't care you went on a date with her. Like, was there any more to that? I mean, who cares?
So from your experience with yourself and other high level investors, what's the profit? Like, what are they actually taking home?
So there's a ton of people that like quote unquote did $1 million in a year that are like 10% or less profit margins.
Really?
So they're taking home less than $100,000 for the money that they're generating.
And the rest is going to paying marketing, paying their commissions
Their
and
team,
fees and
whatever
taxes.
they're doing.
Wow.
And I would say a lot of that's because people suck at running a business. Like you have to know your numbers. And I remember hearing that as a new person, and frankly, like you're running so fast and trying to do so many things when you're new and there's so much going on that like knowing your numbers, if you're not an integrator person, maybe that's not the most feasible thing because you're just throwing everything against the wall and just trying to see what sticks.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can nail them down and figure them out early, that's great. If not, like understand that needs to come in time. But once you have it dialed in and you're running at a good rate, like you should be somewhere between, if you're really like pedal to the floor, in my opinion, maybe you dip down to 20-ish%. It certainly shouldn't be dipping down much more than that if you have it dialed in. But if you're more at a place where you're more stabilized, you're running lean, like there's no reason that you shouldn't. You should for sure have the goal to be running like a 30% profit margin business, 40 or 50 maybe if you're doing a lot of JV deals, because that's like a very little cost type of business.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say. We're running at like a 40-ish% profit margin type of business for our business. And that's because I'm pretty lean. Like some of these guys have like a 10-person team and, they're doing and they're in all these markets. If that's something you want to do, then like by all means.
Yeah, I would say the nationwide model is more like it costs more to run that. You need more
way
people.
more, right.
Local, you can do more lean, but
Right.
then you gotta be doing a ton of marketing like you're doing.
Right.
Because you're not getting a lot of people unless you're spending the money.
Right. And once again, like I knew pretty early on, I just wanted to have an operation that was efficiency's way more interesting than volume. Like,
Yeah, that's what you told us in the past. Like, what's the take home? Who cares how
Yeah.
much money you're bringing? If you're doing $4 million, if you're only taking home like barely anything, that's just a lot of work for
like
nothing.
say you're taking home $500,000, like that sounds like a lot, but for the income that you're producing, you should be taking home a lot more. Like in point in case, and here's a really interesting example. And I know, and we need to wrap up here, so maybe this is kind of like the last point. But like I found from the wholesaling company has allowed me to do other businesses. So we have our e-com business, which is like a done-for-you private label. We don't do any more of this drop shipping BS. Anyone that tells you that that's a smooth sale and passive income is a liar. It doesn't work, period. I know from personal experience. So don't go buy any of that crap. Call me and we'll set you up with a real product, with real branding, with real...
Are you taking on more clients?
Yeah, we will be. We will be. So if
When's the timeline?
So right now I've got our first batch of clients that we've pivoted over to private label. All of their products should be implemented within the first quarter, by the end of first quarter next year. And so we'll be looking for new clients somewhere in first quarter next year.
Were any of them upset about the drop shipping that was pitched to them and now it's
100%.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Happens.
But what they understand now is that rather than like drop shipping was a really cool like quick rip. When it was working, we were printing money. It was awesome. But if we compare it to real estate, it's really like, hey, we created a wholesale business for you, and rather than that, we're creating a company that builds an apartment complex and we sell that thing. And so the time frame takes longer. But the investment is about the same, and the upside is absolutely massive. Like I was telling you guys, I mean, you could go flip your initial investment. Like those are crypto returns.
Gotcha.
Like we're talking like 10 to 100x on your initial investment if it goes.
What does the initial investment look like?
So it dependent upon the services that we provide. I mean, typically we're somewhere between like $25,000 and $35,000 to get started, and then we take it from there. We identify the product, we do all the product research, we do all the branding, we launch the product. I mean, it's the same as a real estate deal where you're like a credit partner. So you come in, you give the initial investment, so we have the funds to get you up and going, and then you've got to bring your credit. You need a minimum of at least $50,000 in addition to the 25. So 25 is like cash that's gone, and then you need an additional $50,000 in credit
Revolving
available to be able to go do the selling and launching it. And so the hope is that within the first year of selling, year to 18 months, once we get you up and going, we go and sell that thing for anywhere from a 4 to a 12 multiple on your net income. So if we make $100,000 in the year, we sell it for a 10x. We sell that business for $1 million. We split those profits, and you're off to the races, and we can rinse and repeat. So that's a really cool business. The wholesaling has allowed me to go do more businesses. We have that one. I have my warehousing company. We have my
crazy,
crypto
man.
investments.
You need to calm down, bro. You're doing it all.
How many businesses you got? Let's list them real quick. You got wholesaling,
dog
breeding,
dogs,
e-commerce,
warehousing. I don't know if you want to
love
count
businesses, bro. You love it.
And that's the thing. Like, I make so much more money in businesses than like anything else. It's not even close. And so
the wholesaling got you there. So that's what
the
audience
allowed me the liquidity to go do that.
But hey, you're also a smart guy, so not everybody's going to be able to just grasp
saying
how
not
to.
everyone's smart.
Sure.
Hey. But if you're smart enough to make a few $100,000 in real estate, you can make millions, in real estate or elsewhere, however you want to apply yourself. So I would say let the wholesaling be the avenue to make some money.
It is a good avenue. I mean,
to go
it's
do
not
other
that
things.
intense.
And
It's
maybe
just
you
labor
freaking
intensive.
love real estate. Maybe you do wholesaling. You're like, I'm the real estate guy. And if you're that guy, freaking go buy rentals and flip houses and build a monster of an enterprise. Like, by all means. If that's you, then do it. I think the biggest thing is just to be true to yourself and what you like and what you're good at.
Well, let's end on that, man. That was awesome. Hey, Investor Thrive Nation, Dane is the man. We're going to put his contact. What can we put in the description so they reach out to you?
So feel free to reach out to me. Probably my email is best. It's just Dane, DANE, at Blink Home Buyers, buyersplural.com.
And we'll put that in the description on the YouTube channel. Please share the video. Let's get some. We're just trying to grow our little podcast as well. So share that with people, and let's help people learn from our experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. So and any of your guys that want to reach out, I'm happy to help them any way that I can. It'd be
reach out to Dane. He'll buy your deal. He'll help you wholesale your deal.
E-commerce.
We'll build a business together.
Build a business together. He's got you. He's got you. He's got you back. But anyway, Investor Thrive Nation, thanks for coming in. We're gonna end, and we'll see you next week.
See you guys.
Bye.